I call to order the February 6, 2023 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everybody please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Alderman Plufka?
Here.
Alderwoman Tice?
Here.
Alderwoman Sims?
Here.
Alderman Waggy?
Here.
Alderman Gould?
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Shelton?
Here.
All members are present.
All right, next up on the order of on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? Seeing no objection, it will be so approved. Thank you. Brings us down to item number 4. We have 2 items, both of them with our police department. Chief?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for a few minutes to recognize members of the Brentwood Police Department. We would like to start this evening with a recent promotion that was made. Lieutenant Jason Simpson, can you come forward, please? Introduce your family to everyone, please.
Sure. My wife, Amy, my daughter, Claire, and my son, Cole.
Jason began his career in law enforcement in 1997 after he graduated from the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Academy in St. Louis. After graduation, he was assigned to the North Patrol Division in District 7 for 3 years. He's been a member of our department since 2000 and has served in several capacities, including police officer for 3 years, detective for 6 years, where he also served as our firearms instructor. And then he was detached to the DEA task force for 5 years. He was promoted to sergeant in 2015 and served as the agency's Detective Bureau commander for the last 8 years. Since 2003, Lieutenant Simpson has been part of a Greater St. Louis Major Case Squad, where he held a supervisory position for several years. Lieutenant Simpson was recently offered a position with the Major Case Squad as deputy commander, but declined, deciding to dedicate his time to his new role as lieutenant and the development of the officers under his command. He still serves as this department's liaison with the Major Case Squad, introducing new Brentwood investigators, coordinating staffing for callouts, and training. Lieutenant Simpson was instrumental in organizing and directing the May 2021 homicide investigation here in Brentwood that ended in a successful conclusion of the case. In March 2023, Lieutenant Simpson will graduate from the Police Leadership and Command Preparatory Academy from St. Charles, Missouri. This well-earned promotion to lieutenant comes after 26 years of law enforcement experience. 23 of those years have been spent as an asset with the Brentwood Police Department, as a regional investigator with the Major Case Squad, and task force officer with the highly regarded federal agency. Jason is the proud father of Claire and Cole, who you just met, and the loving husband of his patient wife, Amy, you also met. Congratulations to Lieutenant Jason Simpson. The second part of the presentation from the police department will be the Officer of the Month and Officer of the Year from last year. This is a process that it's kind of voted upon within the police department about some outstanding work that the officers do. These are just examples, this style, where there are multiple people that are considered for these awards each month. So it's difficult to pick them out, but Angie and Jim will read you some quick synopsis of the Officers of the Month.
And officers, as I call your name, please come up and just stand over to the right of the podium. The Officer of the Month for January of 2022 is Officer Amir Habibovic. I believe Amir is not able to be with us tonight, but in January, he was dispatched to a report of a person down who was presenting with agonal breathing. He and Corporal Lang arrived very quickly, and he was able to begin CPR. Corporal Lang then administered naloxone, which we refer to as Narcan, and they were able to revive the subject, who was up and speaking when emergency personnel came on scene.
The Officer of the Month for the month of March, Officer Theron Johnson. This is awarded for exceptional performance of duty on March of 2022. Officer Johnson received a flock camera notification regarding a vehicle wanted for an assault in the second degree and armed criminal action. Officer Johnson located the vehicle attempting to enter westbound I-64 and conducted a traffic stop. His investigation of the occupants revealed the driver was operating the vehicle with a suspended license and the passenger was wanted for assault in the second degree and armed criminal action. This wanted had been entered by the Breckenridge Hills Police Department, who promptly responded and took custody of the subject. The detectives from the Breckenridge Hills Police Department later contacted this department to express their gratitude for Officer Johnson's arrest. The wanted subject had assaulted a security guard and threatened subjects with a firearm in their venue. In addition to this arrest, Officer Johnson led the department in traffic stops and citations, 18, for the month of March. Congratulations.
For the month of April, we have 3 nominees and winners: Officer Jamie Clark, Officer Alex Wilcox, and Officer Amir Habibovic, also all won for April of 2022. The Brentwood Police Department responded to the Circle K on Manchester for the report of a storage shed that was broken into and numerous cartons of packs of cigarettes were stolen. 2 days later, Officer Jamie Clark received a call for destruction of property, wherein she located and arrested the subject. Alex Wilcox and Amir Habibovic responded to the area to assist, having had prior calls for service that involved the same suspect. Officer Clark then located 2 capsules of suspected narcotics and a pack of cigarettes on the suspect's person, indicating that the cigarette package was not yet marked for sale. It was also discovered he was living in an abandoned trailer nearby. Located in and around the trailer were hundreds of packs of cigarettes. Officers Wilcox and Habibovic seized, cataloged, photographed, and documented the recovery of more than 1,000 packs of cigarettes with a value of approximately $8,500 that were in fact stolen from our Circle K. As a result of their group effort and investigation, the suspect's probation was revoked, and St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office issued felony stealing charges. Congratulations.
The Officer of the Month for the month of May, Officer Stephen Ortnow. On May 3rd, 2022, officers received a radio assignment for a stealing at Five Below. Officer Ortnow located the suspect at the Metrolink, admiring his heist. After arresting the suspect, Officer Ortnow continued his investigation, where he located 60 individual wrapped plastic bags containing marijuana. After the arrest, Officer Ortnow learned that the suspect had a federal drug case pending. Learning of the federal pending case, Officer Ortnow had been in contact with the federal prosecutor's office to try and obtain more federal charges. On May 7th, 2022, officers received a radio assignment for stealing from Target, and Officer Ortnow responded to the Metrolink, where he located the suspect. During Officer Ortnow's investigation, he located narcotics and drug paraphernalia on the suspect's person. On May 20th, 2022, Officer Ortnow was patrolling the area of Target when he noticed the subject walking on all fours next to a shopping cart full of merchandise. Officer Ortnow conducted a pedestrian check on the subject and learned that the subject had just stolen from Target. He was taken into custody. Again, on May 20th, 2022, while patrolling the area of Brentwood and Russell at approximately 1:28 a.m., Officer Ortnow observed a vehicle parked in front of Athletico with the driver's side door open. Officer Ortnow responded to the parking lot to check on the vehicle. As he approached the car, he located the subject in the driver's seat sleeping. Further investigation revealed that the subject had just used narcotics. Officer Ortnow located more narcotics in plain view. The subject was arrested and booked on possession of controlled substance and fugitive by several agencies. On May 30th, 2022, while patrolling the parking lot of Total Wine & More, Officer Ortnow located a subject looking into the clothing donation boxes in front of the store. Officer Ortnow conducted a pedestrian check. During Officer Ortnow's investigation, he discovered the subject had a warrant for burglary second degree through the St. Louis County. Our Officer of the Month for May of 2022, Steve Ortnow.
For July of 2022, we recognized Officer Theron Johnson, along with one of his squad mates who you'll hear about in just a little bit. But I wanted to highlight his performance in July because he acted pretty critically on 3 separate felony arrests and 3 separate exceptional felony investigations with his squad mate. As you all know, officer safety is probably our primary priority here at Brentwood Police Department, and we take our training with that very seriously. We wanted to take this opportunity for this month to recognize Officer Theron Johnson for his actions and his assists with his partner in the month of July for those arrests. We looked at body camera footage from all 3 of the arrests, and Officer Johnson showed an exceptional display of officer safety tactics. He also performed thorough secondary searches of each suspect, any vehicles, and was critical in assisting to locate narcotics and 2 weapons during that month. Officer Theron Johnson.
Our Officer of the Month for the month of August is Sergeant Josh Bowersox. Again, a few names you may have heard. Officer Clark and Sergeant Bowersox received a radio assignment for an overdose with the victim locked in a bathroom, and the caller could hear the victim's breathing turning agonal. When Sergeant Bowersox arrived on the scene, he retrieved the sledgehammer located in the trunk of his patrol car and used it quickly to gain entry to the bathroom. He administered a dose of naloxone to the victim. The Brentwood paramedics took over the scene and determined the victim's heart had stopped beating. The victim's heart soon started beating again, and the victim regained consciousness. Fire Captain Jake Urshan stated without the quick actions of the officers, the victim may have died. Also in the month of August, Sergeant Bowersox located 4 either felony wanted or stolen vehicles, all while maintaining his administrative duties as a sergeant. Congratulations.
For the month of September, Officer TJ Lockenecht. Officer Lockenecht was notified of a stolen vehicle from a flock hit. The stolen vehicle was described as a white Nissan Maxima that was entered as stolen by Kirkwood Police. Officer Lockenecht immediately began canvassing the area in search of the stolen vehicle. The vehicle was eventually located near Chick-fil-A. Officer Lockenecht initiated a traffic stop, confirmed the vehicle was stolen, and took 2 suspects into custody. During his investigation, the suspects were also found in possession of suspected methamphetamine. Officer Lockenecht.
The Officer of the Month for the month of November 2022, Officer Alex Wilcox. Community Response Officer Wilcox began an investigation involving a suspect wanted for numerous thefts of power tools from multiple Home Depot locations in the St. Louis region, including Brentwood. Wilcox prepared multiple search warrants and was able to determine the subject stealing the tools sold the tools to another subject. The other subject utilized several online platforms to sell stolen items across the United States and in Europe. With the assistance of the Home Depot organized retail theft investigators, Brentwood detectives and detectives from other agencies, Community Response Officer Wilcox's investigation culminated in a search warrant for the second subject's residence, the one who was selling the merchandise. During an interview, the second subject admitted that they had been purchasing stolen Home Depot power tools on a weekly basis for approximately a year and a half. the St. Louis County, totaling a value of $21,000, over $21,000. The St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office issued felony receiving stolen property warrants against the subject. Our Officer of the Month for the month of November, Alex Wilcox.
Officer of the Month for December of 2022 is again Officer Jamie Clark. Brentwood officers received a flock hit for a stolen vehicle. Officer Clark located that vehicle traveling southbound through Maplewood Commons. She initiated her emergency lights and siren, and the vehicle attempted to flee. The driver of the stolen vehicle, however, lost control of the car, struck a curb, and came to a stop on a telephone pole guide wire. All 5 juvenile suspects ran from the vehicle and attempted to flee on foot. After a short foot pursuit, all 5 juveniles were taken into custody, and the driver of the vehicle was transported and held at the juvenile building on the charge of tampering first degree. Officer Clark.
Over the course of 2022, Officer Seth Mundorf was nominated and won Officer of the Month 4 times. During that time, he made 26 arrests, seized numerous firearms and narcotics, wrote 96 police reports, and issued 165 summonses. This is Officer Mundorf's second Officer of the Year award, the first he received for his work in 2020. The following are some of the highlights of the last year for Seth. 2/15/2022, Officer Mundorf received a flock camera notification indicating a stolen vehicle had entered Brentwood Forest. After locating the vehicle and driver, Officer Mundorf located an ounce of crystal meth and ecstasy in the suspect's vehicle. The driver was also wanted for robbery first degree and harassment. The suspect was attempting to contact a friend in Brentwood Forest who was also wanted for possession of stolen property. On 2/28/22, Officer Mundorf and Officer Theron Johnson were dispatched to a disturbance. Upon arrival, Officer Mundorf located a distraught female sitting in her vehicle and a nearby male subject who was later determined to be the woman's estranged husband. The husband had an active order of protection on file prohibiting him from interacting with his wife, and he was taken into custody safely. On 6/6/22, Brentwood officers received a call for an armed robbery near the Metrolink station. The victim informed dispatch that 2 suspects had used a firearm to steal money and could be located inside or near the Metrolink. Officer Mundorf responded promptly, entered the Metrolink train, located 2 suspects, and took them both into custody. Both suspects were identified by the victim as the person who robbed them, and 2 firearms were seized in this case. On 10/10/22, Officer Mundorf conducted a traffic stop on a suspicious vehicle, ultimately arresting the driver for possession of methamphetamine and tampering first from Jefferson County. On 10/11/22, a call came in from a suicide hotline in reference to a guest at the Spring Hill Suites. Officer Mundorf responded, and after determining the location of the guest in question, he was given entry to the hotel room where the subject was located unconscious with a cord around his neck from the doorknob. Officer Mundorf removed the cord surrounding the person's neck, causing him to gasp for air and regain consciousness eventually. The subject was then transported by EMS to the hospital and went in stable condition. On 10/24/22, Officer Mundorf, along with Corporal Scott Worth, responded to the YMCA in reference to a male subject attempting to capture a photograph of a male juvenile in the locker room. Officer Mundorf observed a male subject matching the description of the suspect and immediately took him into custody. Officer Mundorf interviewed the subject, who admitted to placing his iPhone over a bathroom stall occupied by the male juvenile. This is a synopsis of the year that Seth had. It doesn't encompass everything that the man does on a daily basis. Really, this award's about our officers that come to work every day and ready to go out and really make a difference in our neighborhood. So we congratulate our Officer of the Year, Seth Mundorf. Joe's going to take a photograph.
Oh, yeah. Do you want us to get out of the way?
Thank you, everybody. And I just first want to say thanks to, Seth reminds me of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, just continues to win. But I do have just a few words to say for a second. And that is, none of us sitting up here, certainly me, can fully appreciate how dangerous of a job it is that you all do. And we do appreciate that, your willingness to take that on. If you read in the news every day, you can read somewhere about a police officer that's been attacked. Just last week, 2 St. Louis City police officers were shot in trying to capture a criminal. So I do understand how dangerous it is. And as I'm listening to all the acts that you've done over this last year, what amazes me, continues to amaze me, is also the degree of compassion that is exhibited time and time again by our officers. I think that's a result of who you are. It's also a result of the training that you get. So I want to thank all the family and friends who showed up tonight to support these terrific officers, not just the ones that were acknowledged tonight, but overall our entire department. We really do truly appreciate everything that you do. So thank you so much. Okay, and with that, we will move on to public hearing, of which I don't think we have one. We'll move down to citizen comments. If anybody in the public cares to address the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes.
There's no one online.
Okay, and we will move on. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian Hanson.
right.
Yep, Ward 2. Thank you again, officers, and that was a great presentation, and I couldn't agree more. Our police department is top-notch, and I feel like we have a great community, and they really help us community-wise and keep us safe. The other reason I'm here tonight is I just wanted to publicly thank Alderman Lockmeyer and Alderman Gould for continuing to have ward meetings every 2 months. They're super informative. The fact that they get one of the representatives from the police department to come in, explain what's going on, tell us what's happening in our community, Brentwood bound updates, public events, having open, honest conversations with everybody, whether they're in their ward or not, and just having that candid back and forth conversation means a lot to me, means a lot to other people that are in there. And honestly, these 2 men have been the whipping boy for the Green Street project because they constantly get the questions, good, bad, indifference, opposing, supporting, or not. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for continuing to do that. And I encourage others to start doing that as well. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Anybody else? And I would agree with the sentiments of Brian. Alderman Gould and Alderman Lockmuller have done a fantastic job, as has all of our other aldermen in holding their regular ward meetings. But those 2 have been on the front line respective to Green Street and the redevelopment. And so I do thank you, because the easiest thing to have done would be to not have the Ward 3 meetings. And you've said, nope, we're going to still go ahead and do that. So next up, Mayor and Alderman reports. First up, the Mayor. I have no report. Alderman Plufka.
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
No report.
Alderman Legge.
No report.
Alderwoman Sims.
No report.
Alderman Lockmuller.
No report.
Alderman Gould.
No report.
Alderwoman O'Neill. And Alderman Shelton.
No report.
All right, moves us down to the City Administrator report. Brentwood Bound update. I do not see Craig.
He is unavailable tonight. There is a conflict, so the board will, he will be here at the next meeting, the
Okay.
21st, and give the report then.
All right. The Brentwood Bound Curb, Eck, and Breckle fourth quarter presentation. We had the third quarter presentation at, I think, the last meeting or the
Correct.
last one of December. Okay.
Correct.
And so we have a presentation on the fourth quarter presentation.
Once again, a rather simple presentation. I'm going to read their quote. There are no findings, again, during this quarter, so we are hoping you, Bola Kane, will present the report to the board in lieu of us attending. So they have been tasked, KEB as I like to call them, with oversight and verification of the expenditures and making sure that the city is spending it in compliance with public money and the city's financial policies and procedures. And so they're reporting this month on the fourth quarter that we are.
Any questions? Yes, Alderman Plufka.
It's not so much a question, it's just a comment. I had a question at the last reporting as to a couple of items that came up, and I want to thank the city administrator and the staff. I got a very quick response, and I very much appreciate that.
Anybody else? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda, under which we have 7 items. I think we're still having 7, is that right, Kelly?
Is it? Yes, they're all
Okay.
there.
Any questions or requests to remove any of the items under the consent agenda? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Waggy?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, motion carries.
Thank you. We have no old business, brings us to item 11, new business. We have 3 items, and all 3 of them are for first readings only. First up is bill number 6446. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first read by title only, please?
Bill number 6446, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 100 of the Brentwood City Code relating to suspension and debarment of vendors.
Mr. City Attorney, are you presenting on this?
No report, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir, I'd be happy to. Staff thinks this is a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
You like a little more?
Sure.
All right. The question, the process of debarment is a commonplace at the federal and state level, and staff is recommending that the board consider adopting a similar process with respect to vendors to the city. This process enables the city to address performance which is shabby or inadequate or inappropriate, or conduct which is problematic on the part of vendors and contractors that the city deals with, and establishes a process whereby the city can put those vendors on notice, give them an opportunity to be heard, and if their misconduct or their performance warrants, to then debar them from doing business with the city for an appropriate period of time, depending on the character and scope of the misconduct. This is intended to assure that those with whom we do business are sensitive to their need to perform well and to perform consistently, are sensitive to our concerns about appropriate conduct in terms of the bidding process as well as performance afterwards, and gives the city another tool in the toolbox to deal with those who may not live up to our expectations, and guarantees the taxpayers of the city that the city is conscientious in seeing to it that they get everything their tax dollars are paying for, and that those with whom we deal are upright and righteous in terms of their dealings. So we think it's an appropriate tool to have. Hopefully, it's rarely, if ever, used. But if it's needed, we thought you might want to have this available.
Thank you. Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions. The first is this ordinance, in your experience, is this something that's becoming more common among municipalities in St. Louis County or in the state of Missouri?
Some of the larger cities in the state have it, frankly, I'm bringing it to my clients and they are adopting it, but most communities of this size do not have the apparatus to adopt and enforce this kind of protocol, and I think that Brentwood does, and it can be a useful tool.
My other question, Your Honor, is in regards to suspension or debarment, is that something that's going to be published somewhere as a list?
I don't know that there will be an effort to publicize it aggressively. We can obviously maintain it on a website. I will add that one of the having this as a tool encourages resolution of disputes with vendors because many bidding processes require any vendor who has been debarred by any agency to disclose that fact and can be problematic in obtaining business, not just with us, but with other governmental entities. So just having this available may have a very salutary effect on those with whom we deal.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, anyone else? Not, we will move on to the next item, and we'll take this up for a second read at the next meeting. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first read by title only of Bill number 6447?
Right. I'm not getting it. Bill number 6447, first reading, an ordinance relating to procedures for issuing and enforcement of subpoenas in furtherance of Board of Aldermen proceedings. And I'm sorry, I'm not being able to access this here. Getting is, well, that's what it says. Yep,
You
that's
did it.
got
This sounds like something the city attorney would be putting
It
together.
is guilty on all counts, Your Honor. Again, this is a recommendation that it is a tool that it would be prudent for the city to have available. State law gives the Board of Aldermen, as opposed to any other entity in the city, the power to subpoena and compel the attendance of witnesses and production of papers and documents and information that you require. This may be used in both your oversight capacity with respect to the conduct of folks who are part of the city, and may be useful in that respect if there is ever some dust up in the city that is problematic. I think, however, more importantly, that this may be useful in terms of your legislative proceedings and your right to compel the attendance of witnesses to assist you in determining whether or not your current ordinances should be revised in some way or whether the city should look at new legislation in order to achieve its goals. You may find a model in terms of the way Congress subpoenas folks to appear before committees and inquire of them, you know, you're doing this and that and the other thing, which, my God, I think are awful, is awful. What kind of laws can we pass to make you stop doing that? Having someone exposed to the opportunity to be seen by the entire community and preserved on a recorded video and put on for others to see may also, akin to the previous ordinance, have a salutary effect on some who may not think that obeying the ordinances of the city is their highest priority. And the opportunity to let them explain themselves to you all in the course of your legislative oversight might be a useful tool.
Okay, Alderman Lockmiller.
Could you give an example of how this procedure would start and how it would be followed through at the board level?
If the board believes that having someone here to testify, obviously you can invite them to testify, but if they do not choose, the board would vote to issue a subpoena or authorize the mayor to issue a subpoena on behalf of the board. If they fail to appear, then the proof of the issuance of the subpoena and its delivery to the person, we would go to the court, St. Louis County Circuit Court, and file that with the court there and ask the court to enforce the subpoena, which state law says they can do. And then they would issue a show cause order to the person to either appear in response to the subpoena or appear in court and tell us why you're not doing that. And then use the contempt power of the circuit court to enforce compliance.
Can that be done, I understand at this level, but can it be done at committee level?
This is reserved to the board itself unless the board delegates that to a committee. The board could issue a subpoena for someone to appear before a committee.
Thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
So, my only question was, would the subpoena power extend throughout the state of Missouri or just through the community of Brentwood?
I would believe it would extend throughout the state.
Okay.
I don't think the person would have to be in the city to be
Okay.
served.
To be subject to it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I was curious about that. Thank you.
Question.
Yep.
Anybody else? Yes, Alderwoman Tice.
And
Sorry, Jeff.
could I ask a similar question that Alderman Plufka asked about the last bill? Is this being done in other communities, or what's prompted you to bring this to us?
Again, a circumstance arose with another client community, and I looked around and realized that they didn't have this. State law has always had given boards of aldermen the authority to subpoena. But what we didn't have was, we could always do it, okay? And what we would have to do is then figure out how to do it in a given case when you want it. The idea here is to set up a process in advance so that when you want to exercise that authority, you have already created a format and process for that to occur. So it's not a new authority, but what we're doing is taking the precaution of saying, why don't we think through that before we're in a crisis mode and have a real problem? So the whole idea is to set up something in the case it's needed.
Alderman Gould.
Question?
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? If not, we will have a second read on this at the next meeting in February. That brings us to the last item under new business, and that's Bill number 6448. Can we get a first read by title only, please?
Bill number 6448, first reading, an ordinance reaffirming the gross receipts tax to be imposed upon utility corporations conducting business within the city of Brentwood, Missouri, and matters relating thereto, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. And who's presenting on this, Bola?
I am.
Okay.
Last month, the Missouri Public Service Commission approved a rate increase for Spire, and this notice was sent to all the taxing districts, and those districts have 60 days from which to either A, according to the state statute, affirm their current tax rate, and the cities is 7.5%. Residents charge 0, businesses the 7.5%, or adopt an ordinance approving the increase. So we took this to the Ways and Means Committee last week, and the recommendation is to present this to the board affirming the city's current tax rate of 7.5%.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Yes, Alderman Wagner.
So the percentage is the same, but we will be actually getting more tax revenue because of the increase at Spire?
We are not going to be getting an increase. I don't believe we are, because we're going to affirm the current 7.5%.
Okay, and that's not based on what Spire is currently charging, it's based on the 7.5%?
Is what the city would get, well, it would increase, let me restate that. It would increase, but we will still collect, it would be calculated based on 7.5%. So, because people are spending more generally, the city's revenue will increase.
Thanks.
Alderman Plufka.
Was there a rationale issued by Ways and Means as to why we wouldn't just simply pass this through to the businesses in Brentwood? The rate increase?
I don't believe so.
There wasn't?
I'll ask the chair of that committee if
I think the thought process was we wanted to keep the tax rate where it was, and not, put an additional burden on our business owners.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? If not, we will have a second read of this also at the next Board of Aldermen meeting. All right, that drops us down to citizen comments. Again, if anybody in the public cares to address the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. If not, okay. After a review of the agenda, I've decided we do not need to go into, into closed session tonight. So with that, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.